Welcome to NCCI's Insights Video Edition. Thanks for checking out this episode of NCCI's Insights Video Edition. I'm Sheila Fordson. NCCI's Economics group produces critical insights on economic issues affecting workers' compensation. The flagship report, the Quarterly Economics Briefing, also known as the QEB, was just released and is now available on ncci.com. Today, we're discussing another key report from NCCI's Econ Group. This report addresses the current perceived labor shortage in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us now to dive deeper are NCCI economists Patrick Coate and Francesco Renna. Gentlemen, welcome to the Insights Video Edition.
Thank you for having me, Sheila.
Yes, happy to be here.
So to get started, Francesco, do we have a labor shortage?
So, Sheila, in the second quarter of 2021, employers have posted record high job openings in the United States. With more than 9 million people still unemployed, one would assume that it would be easy for employers to hire new workers. Yet what we hear about is stories of employers having a hard time recruiting new workers, which has led to the perception that there is a labor shortage. Now, what is a labor shortage? A labor shortage is a situation where employers are trying to hire more workers than the number of people they are willing to accept a job at the offer that the employer made to them. When we analyze a labor shortage, it is important to look at wages as compensation for the work that individuals apply to the firm. But before we look at wages, we want to look at also what are the major determinants of the current situation. And we are mostly interested in the work that Patrick and I conducted together in trying to understand what is going on to labor force participation. Why are there so many people they are still missing from the labor market? When are they likely to come back? What was the motivation why they left? And we're also interested in trying to see, okay, how is this job matching affecting the speed of recovery in the jobs that were lost during the pandemic?
You mentioned workers leaving the labor force during the pandemic. Patrick, are they starting to return?
So workers are not returning very quickly. So we did see a little bit of a recovery from the pandemic's onset last summer, but labor force participation hasn't risen too much since then. And in the paper, we focus in particular on two groups of workers whose labor force participation is much lower than it was pre-pandemic. So one is people who left the labor force during the pandemic to take care of families. 1.4 million women left the labor force to take care of family specifically, which was around 40% of the total number of women that left the labor force at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's up to about 60% now as some women who left for other reasons have returned, but the number of women out of the labor force for family reasons has been pretty stable. During the pandemic, there were 500,000 more retirements than we would have expected from pre-pandemic trends. So this is a substantial group of workers and is especially important in industries or occupations that employ a high share of older workers. For example, trucking had 30% of their workers were 55 and older before the pandemic. The other thing Francesco mentioned is job matching. So at the beginning of the pandemic, there were 18 million workers on temporary layoff. Now it's down to 1.8 million. This is still higher than pre-pandemic by a wide margin, but 1/10 what it was on the onset. So a lot of the early job recovery was the relatively easy part. Now job matching is more difficult. People are going through the full hiring process. Looking around, this is a standard occurrence in economic recovery, that the recovery is slower than the losses and becomes more difficult over time. It's just more extreme in this scenario because of the unprecedented number of job losses and speed of job losses last spring.
And let's talk more about wages.
Overall, we do not see an acceleration in the wage growth. So wages are growing at the same speed as in previous years. However, there is an exception to that rule, and that is the sector of leisure and hospitality, where we do actually see wage growth above previous trends. During 2021, wages have grown by more than 10%, actually. We're not even down through 2021. And at the same time that we observe this wage growth, we see a lot of gains in occupation in the sector, which is telling us that wages are doing what wages are supposed to do, which is to bring workers back to the sector. Those gains are concentrated only among the entry-level, low-pay jobs, even within the sector of leisure and hospitality. There's a new trend in the market. It seems like workers are paying more attention, are demanding, and they want more fringe benefits, more perks together with their paycheck, which may go from health insurance benefits to paid time off, or maybe just a possibility of a career advancement or a retirement plan. So those are all additional benefits that they are becoming more and more important to workers, although they don't necessarily show up in the monetary component of the wage compensation.
This has certainly been a lot of vital information that you guys have shared with us today. Patrick, what is likely to happen next?
It will take some time for labor force participation to rise to pre-pandemic levels. We hope that schools will fully reopen in the fall, and some of the caretakers, particularly women, will be able to return to work. But we don't expect that 1.4 million to drop to zero very rapidly. I think we do expect to see some reshuffling across sectors. Actually, again, with leisure and hospitality, although it is recovering more rapidly right now, it still has much larger employment gaps than other sectors, and it may not get all the way back to the share of the economy that it was pre-pandemic. As far as what that means for workers' compensation, any change to workforce composition affects workers' comp. So as we see people coming back to the workforce, as we see people reshuffling across sectors, we know that sometimes less experienced and low tenure workers tend to have higher claim frequency. On the other hand, as Francesco was mentioning, with extra benefits, if employers do embrace these and that reduces turnover over time, we may see downward pressure in the future. And then, we have discussed in previous work the effects of the aging workforce. This wave of early retirements in the COVID year isn't going to reverse demographic trends, but it is going to slow them down over the next couple of years. And we know that's important because older workers tend to have higher time away from work after an injury. And we've also shown in prior work that older workers aren't seeing the same declines in injury frequency that we see for other age groups. So we will continue to research all these trends and monitor what's happening throughout the economic recovery.
The full quarterly economics briefing is available online at ncci.com/insights. That's where the Insights portal resides, and there you'll find even more articles and reports addressing important issues of relevance to the workers' compensation industry. Follow us on Twitter for real-time updates at NCCI, and you'll see a red subscribe button next to this video. Click that and the notification bell so you never miss a Channel NCCI upload. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to join us next time when we discuss the issues at the top of the workers' comp agenda from the source you trust.